Ask the cap, let me put you on game. Ask the cap, look at all that you could gain. Business moves, loans, and grants, it's all a part of the game. You could learn all of this, let the Queen Sheba explain.
Well, thank you, Arthur Thomas, for being here today for this episode of Axe to Cap, where we will be talking about and communicating a little bit about the entrepreneurial ecosystem and how to effectively navigate that space for small businesses and founders who may be in economically distressed environment. So before we get started on that, this conversation is really for everyone and anyone. And so for those individuals who may be joining us today, if you don't mind introducing yourself, give a little bit of history and background on what you do, who you are, and all of those good things, that would be great. And then we'll move right into the topic at hand.
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Sansa Ray.
Thank you.
Always good to have these nourishing conversations with you, you know.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm Arthur Thomas. I am currently the CEO of Integrity Solutions Group, also Executive Director of Divine Grace Foundation, which is my family foundation, and also co-founder of Dr. J Souffle, which is a um, cosmetic product with organic body butter that we co-founded. But I think the thing that sort of undergirds everything that I do is that I'm a minister. And so the ministry is, you know, healing people, healing communities by empowering them with the resources you need to thrive, to flourish, but to also become yourself and achieve your God-given purpose, dream, et cetera, et cetera. So in many ways, in order to facilitate that ministry, it requires a convergence of my different skill sets, experiences, synthesized into sort of customized solutions, programming, coaching, consulting. I have a background in economic development. God has taken me on this circuitous pathway where I've had a real estate company, built properties, flipped homes. I worked in finance. I worked in Wall Street. I worked in law. I worked for judges and lawyers. I worked for municipal government, academia, nonprofit, church. I mean, just literally, I've had this wide range of experiences and been blessed to sit at conversations and high levels at these experiences when I realized that a lot of time your journey is preparing you with the experiences you need and the expertise you need to really funnel in on their purpose. And so what I've seen to gather from all of that, and it's still a journey of learning, you know, all these things. What I've gathered is that at the root of it, I'm a mediator and translator, right? And I mediate, meaning that I'm the person that can talk to the people at the grass tops and funnel resources to the people at the grassroots, right? I can be in the corporate boardroom and I can be with, you know, my brothers who are right now activated in gangs trying to survive and help their communities. And so, you know, I can speak to all levels. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, by the way. I have to shout that out. Brick City all
Okay.
day,
All
represent, you
right. Let me
know.
find out. Let
And
me
that's a
find
big part of who I am. Newark
out.
raised me, my family raised me, and living in Newark, you have to be entrepreneurial, you have to be book smart, you have to be street smart. You can't be one without the other, especially with at least my generation growing up. As a black man, you grow up with needing two things, lucidity and literacy.
Right.
You have to be lucid around your surroundings, be able to read the room, you have to be literate and knowing how to function and navigate society. And so with all those things, you also have to give back. It is imperative that you give back. And we're fighters in Newark. We're fighters, and my family of fighters. So all of that shows up into the warrior, which I am, and after meeting you, can tell you're a warrior too for the people.
Listen, I'll
You
be
know,
out here scrapping, digging in and scrapping, trying to figure out from one day to the next, did I get cut? I know I got hit upside the head? Do I have a lump? Like,
exactly.
and you have to have that level of resilience as an entrepreneur, right? You can't, this role and this pathway is not for the weak. And so it's a perfect segue into talking about, faith at the intersection of faith for founders. Talk to us a little bit about how you navigate the obstacles and some of the pitfalls as you're on this path of sustainability, of scaling, of growing. We talk about this entrepreneurial ecosystem. We know there's a lot in that, right? And I'll have you define that in a second. But what grounds, what I guess I would ask advice would you give to founders to help ground them, to prepare them for this pathway?
No, I think it's a good question, and I can speak personally and some of the advice that I do give. So first of all, I'm glad you brought that up because the work that I do is at the intersection of faith, venture, and philanthropy as an intervention for empowering entrepreneurs and founders, empowering community members to have opportunities through entrepreneurship, right? So I'm at this unique intersection of faith, venture, and philanthropy, economic development strategy. And the reason why I say that is because for me, entrepreneurship no matter what your belief is, to me, is a faith journey,
Right.
right? You've been given this idea, this vision, and you're trying to figure out how to package who you are,
Mm,
what resources you have around you to
right.
produce, right, some output, whether that's a good or service, to
Right.
manifest. So to me, entrepreneurship is really a system for manifesting,
Right.
right?
Mm,
It is a vehicle for manifesting. You
mm,
you get this download or this idea through a
mhm.
problem you solve or a need in
Right.
your community.
Right.
You have this unique insight about how you can solve this problem.
Right.
And that's probably going to disrupt the way things already exist and way things already work. And
Right.
then you have to be the one to have faith that this is possible and start pulling things out of nothing to put this together. The good thing about being an entrepreneur and then business gives you a system of tools. It gives you a model
Mhm.
of figuring out how to take something from the intangible and making it material. And
Right.
so if you think about it, right, it's asking you to not only have this vision, and therefore you have to create a plan, write the vision and make it plain,
Right.
right? But then it's telling you to test that vision in real time, right? To
Mhm.
test this service or product that you have, collect the data. So it's iterate, test, iterate, test. And so it takes you through a process of getting to your MVP, your minimum viable product, or your final outcome. And so for me, when I look at, think about entrepreneurs and founders, it's that faith that they have to have that groundedness to be able to stick to what they believe they've been called to create or who they believe they are. And if they've been fearfully and wonderfully made, that they have something of value. And if you've come from certain communities, black, brown, or some other marginalized communities, you've been indoctrinated with messaging that strips away your identity and value. So it's
Right.
an extra fight to stay grounded. And faith provides that extra resources to stay grounded, to seek the right community, to have some principles, some verses that you can anchor into when the going gets tough. And that can help you stick to it when it comes to manifesting that vision. Because that's all it is. I also firmly believe that entrepreneurship is just a pathway to leadership development. It's a
Right.
pathway to, more importantly, asset management and resource management, because that's what it takes, right? It really is not about the venture to me. It's not about the particular idea that you have for this moment to build this car or this thing, and then you do it and you're successful. It's like the journey of building and creating something in real time and what that does to you. What does it do to the team members that work with you? And what does it do to the community that you touch with it?
Right. Right. I love that you said that because for many entrepreneurs and founders, they are building the plane while they're flying it, right? And they're the only one in the cockpit serving the drinks. Like they are on this plane, like making sure they build the plane while they're managing the plane, while they're flying the plane. They're doing all of these things and serving in all of these roles. And so when you talk about purpose, passion, and what comes along with that, right? Often, in order to get to promotion, oftentimes is persecution. Talk a little bit about how to build that resilience while you're on this pathway of navigating this ecosystem towards sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant fight. And I think you have to be very intentional, first of all, about self-care, um, and making sure that you have practices that remind you to take care of your mental health and your
Mhm,
physical health.
mhm.
And part of that is remembering that even though you might have been given this idea that needs to be built into the world, there's no way you could do it alone,
Right,
right?
right,
Everything that we do takes partnerships, collaboration, team. I have this saying that collaboration leads to multiplication, right?
Mhm.
You are not meant to build by yourself. And it is the
Mm,
counsel of wisdom that you get from seeking other people's advice and their experience and expertise that not only fine tunes what you have to offer, but it affirms that you're in the moving in the right direction and that you need that feedback sometimes, that gasoline, that fuel to keep going. And so
right,
it to me, when I am confronting hardships as a founder or as a builder, as whatever, it's important to consult, to me, pray and to consult the Lord and have that grounding and tap into that resource, remind myself of who I am, but also get the wisdom. And wisdom is imperative. Get the counsel of wisdom of others. And then people who just have a care team of people that support you and pour into you, like people that don't need you at all, but just
absolutely.
want to see you thrive and flourish. And so,
Right.
it is that combination of things to me that is always working and evolving to help you.
I love that. I love that. So, as we are seeking counsel, um, partnering with our accountability partners, reaching out to those mentors and those individuals who can help us scale and grow and provide that critical advice that we need as founders and as entrepreneurs. Talk to us about how we become unstuck, because there's a time on this journey where you just get stuck. It doesn't matter what anybody tell you. You could dig in and be in consecration, in prayer for 30 days and 30 nights and still be like, I'm stuck. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are on this journey and looking and trying to become unstuck?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably different advice for different people at different stages of the journey too. But depending on their circumstances, but I will say that it is remembering your why. Sometimes you have to go back to the origin of
Right,
why you took this adventure that we call a venture. Like a venture is an adventure, right?
right,
Like,
right,
and it's an
right,
adventure for you. To me, it's an adventure with God
right,
to go on this unknown, uncertain journey that doesn't have a guaranteed outcome. Number two, you have to remember that whatever vision or idea that you've been given, you've only been revealed a part of it, and you
right,
don't know the entire picture of what it's going to look
right,
like and what it's going to do. And
right,
so part of this obstacle is that your clarity has stopped. You don't know what to do next or what's coming next. And you have to, really open up to the Lord and to other people to find out, like, what's the next step? What am I doing next? Right. And get that next step of revelation. And push through. Or maybe sometimes you miss something. You might have to reanalyze your data and say, oh, through my due diligence, what is there data that we missed in the collection and doing that we need to revisit? And
right,
so I think there's a combination of things of, again, calling on other people because it requires vulnerability. When you're stuck, you got to reach out and get some help. You got to reach out, reach inside and reach
right,
outside, right?
right,
To the
right,
resources that are around you to get help. And like, that's the thing. Again, we're not meant to solve problems on our own.
right,
And this is really an intimate process of discovery because like who what part of you is showing up as you're reaching these barriers? Is
right,
your ego getting in the way? What happens when you run out of cash and you think you're so smart and you're like, I don't know, understand how I got here. Well,
right,
because you don't know everything and you can't
right.
be everything. And so sometimes you have to be humbled, but the humbling is necessary for the elevation. And so I would say, don't give up, at all. You
Right.
just most likely have to reach back inside,
Yeah, yeah. And
pray,
that's
meditate.
one of the hardest things I think for us to do as human beings, not just as CEOs and founders of our small little spaces and organization. I think as human beings, it's hard to reach inside to determine what it is we need when we struggle with who we are. Right. And so this is going back to that faith conversation and understanding how to let go and let God, Allah, higher power, whatever you want to call them, the sun, the moon, the whatever, at the end of the day, if you don't know who you are first, then everything else will shatter around you because you don't know how to build.
There you go. You don't know how to build. And
Don't
I,
know
I
how to
want to
build.
add one more thing too, actually, as I'm thinking about it, is that um, my colleague and I are in the process of doing, we are involved in an accelerator at Yale for creative entrepreneurs. It's the first ever.
Mhm.
And one of the pieces of our presentation that we're talking to these creative entrepreneurs is that we're saying, don't be so attached to the initial idea that you had.
Right,
It's sometimes one of the reasons why we get stuck is because we're attached to what we saw this was supposed to be.
right.
And a lot of times the market and life tells you that you probably have to pivot
Mhm.
on what you thought it should be in order to give the market what it's supposed to have and what it needs.
Right.
And so we say, don't get attached. You might have to, don't get attached to the widget. You might have to pivot in order to make the right widget, right? So
I
don't,
love it.
you
Yeah.
got to pivot,
Right.
sometimes and not be attached to the widget. And so sometimes it's an ego thing, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
no, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way I saw it. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in the community of counsel, you might get that wisdom quicker, and that's why it's important to tap into your local ecosystem, tap into people who've already done what you're trying to do in some form or shape.
Right. Right. And understand that it may take a hodgepodge of information in order for the right equation or sequence of events or information to create what it is you need to do in order to execute.
There you go.
And be kind to yourself,
Ooh,
right?
there
Be
you,
kind to yourself because none of us are perfect.
there you
We
go.
are not perfect. We're not going to get it right out the gate. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be out here running like big head babies, just learning how to walk, tipping and tripping and running forward and trying to catch our balance and understanding that we are not alone. We are
That's
not alone in this world of entrepreneurship and small businesses and a world of founders that makes up how much money? How much do we make up in this country and this economy for jobs, for revenue, right? We are generating so much of an influx of revenue and creating so many jobs for this economy that it is oftentimes forgotten or dismissed, and we are not reminded that we are affecting that, we are contributing to that, we are contributors to a bigger purpose, right? So as we talk about understanding our roles and understanding our purpose and our passion, you know, talk to us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you had to face while you were on this journey and what you encountered and some of the takeaways, the key takeaways that help you kind of push through and move forward.
Well, I think my journey as a founder is similar to a lot of them, but what I think I would like to comment on is that again, no, I don't think that there's many challenges in entrepreneurship that somebody hasn't already faced.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's not exact, it's similar, and there's wisdom in their experience that you need to call upon. And that's what helps you move through challenges faster. It's like I think, and also in our community specifically, we've been bred to I'm not asking anybody for help. We don't trust people
Right.
with our
Yeah.
ideas. We don't trust people with
Right.
our vulnerability to say,
True.
I need help.
It's
And
true.
so we miss out and it takes longer. I've had to grow and become very comfortable with raising my hand and say, please help me. I don't
Yeah.
know everything.
Yeah.
And so, the faster you get more comfortable with realizing that you don't have all the answers, the
Right.
quicker you'll get through the obstacles. The obstacles are meant to teach you and to grow. Again,
Right.
I firmly believe that any business that I'm building is really not about the business that I'm building. It's the person I'm becoming, building the business and the impact it can have, which
Right.
is why you can do the thing, exit the thing and go build something else and build something else. And you get better. And you realize when you step back, you just get better and better at, again, managing assets,
Right.
managing people, systems, technology, capital, relationships. That's all you become. You become
Yes.
an asset manager in life. Your household is is a business or a fund, right?
Right.
Your household, your body, all of these are your assets, your gifts and skills. So entrepreneurship is just the packaging of your assets into the world. And so once you remove yourself to be the attachment of this one thing you're trying to build, you realize it's more than that. And again, you tap into your ecosystem. I think
Right.
building an entrepreneurial ecosystem has been um, itself a founder's journey.
Right. Right.
Because
Right.
the when you are and have the authority to build an entire citywide, regional wide, or statewide entrepreneurial ecosystem, you realize, wow, this is a startup within itself that has to be treated like a business. It's not just an initiative or a project. You have to treat that as an initiative. And those obstacles are very interesting as well. And so being a founder is like at the micro level, and then when you go and when you spread out into somebody who builds systems of organizations coming together in a network to serve versus
Right.
one organization itself, you're like, oh, this is the purpose of life is to become better at managing resources at scale to deploy them to some outcome.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And understanding that as we're scaling and we're growing and we're managing these assets, how do we continue to gather these assets? Where do we acquire them from? Like, our biggest, especially for those that are in distressed communities, one of our biggest issues and obstacles is access to capital. So, how do we continue to nurture the environment that we're in, build the plane while we're flying it, and continue to access capital so we can scale and grow so that we can continue to contribute to this economy, to this country, to this ecosystem?
Well, I mean, that's a great question because that is a huge obstacle for many founders, especially founders that of color that look like us and women founders, right? It's a huge obstacle.
Right,
And when you talk about access to capital, there's a lot of layers to that. For number one, you can't talk about access to capital without talking about sources of capital and then
mm,
understanding the characteristic and traits of the sources of capital and
right,
then figuring out the source when you look at the sources of capital, what are they concerned and interested in? Right?
right,
So
right,
that you can even see from the beginning whether or not you match those interests before you waste your time. And
right,
unfortunately, many of the concerns and interests of capital providers are not aligned with some of the founders in our community
right.
that we're trying to receive capital from. And so, what does that mean? In order to really understand capital access, you have to be strategic, which means that you have to do your due diligence. You have to do a landscape analysis of the capital providers in your region to
Right.
see who's doing what. You need to map those resources, what stage, what sector, what type of business that they're looking for, so that you're not shooting shots and then getting upset when it doesn't happen for you. And we have to know that
Exactly.
initially already some of the requirements for capital are already sort of prohibitive and exclusionary. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
so we need to link up with other people who've had success that look like us at accessing capital to understand what those requirements, how to build those
Mhm.
requirements, how to build up the capacity. So when I worked at the Mission Investment Company, at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, that is one of the things we wanted to address. So the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven is a nonprofit philanthropic organization, $800 million endowment. And it had an inclusive growth strategy to create equity and opportunity for those who have been left out. It had
Beautiful.
a subsidiary called the Mission Investment Company that cared about making investments, a double bottom line, financial and social returns by making investments into populations that have historically been devalued and disinvested in. And
Right.
so when we were thinking about that very same thing, how do you create access to capital for those who have been geographically, demographically segregated, we made a choice to have one patient capital to remove some of the barriers, the interest, the entry points to those populations. And then we decided, hey, let's find them, market this, and tell them that we care so that they can get access. Now, in the process of that, what we found, unfortunately, was something to me that was even more unsettling.
Mm,
And that is that many of our founders that we care about just didn't weren't prepared and weren't able to have the right requirement, have a business plan, didn't understand their
right,
bookkeeping. Not that they weren't brilliant, not that they didn't have good ideas,
right,
but they didn't have the tools or resources or mentorship on how to develop the plan and the model, the pitch, and their business viability. And
right,
so that was disheartening because really that was an intelligence issue. It was a capacity and access issue. And
right,
so we realized, listen, you can't get access to capital without a viable strategy. Nobody's going to do that,
right,
right?
right,
So then it became, how do you create a network of resource providers and resources that empower our founders with the necessary skill set they need to create a profitable strategy, a
right,
profitable business strategy that's viable?
right,
That way, when they go to funders, whether it's a loan, a VC, or a grant, they're like, oh, this is well thought out. You have a viable strategy.
right,
So again, typically what we don't, when we think about access to capital, you have to think about first, what is your strategy?
right,
Right? Is your strategy sound? Because money follows strategy,
right.
right? When you have a strategy, it's easier to get more access because you can now say, listen, here's an opportunity that's mutually beneficial. I'm not asking you to go outside of this, but also you need relationships and team to put in
Right.
place to get access. So I tell people every organization needs at least three things: team, capital, strategy. And
Got it.
typically, when you have strategy and team, the capital will come,
Right.
right?
Right.
Whereas you don't, if you don't have strategy and you just have team, you're probably not going to get capital. And if you do get capital, it might be wasted because you didn't have a strategy to deploy it. And so it's
Right.
really about empowering people with what they need, the strategy, the business viability to be able to say, okay, we're ready for capital from the right capital sources.
I love that. I love that. You know, one of the reasons why this podcast exists is to have conscious conversations about economic empowerment and how we can get that information to our communities of color, how we can get it to small businesses, founders, women, whoever needs it. How can we get it out there? Because what I don't want people to do is suffer in silence and then feel like they're alone, right? But you're talking to a group of people. And you said it when we first started the conversation, who don't trust, who struggle with being vulnerable, who struggle with gatekeeping and sharing information because our information's been stolen so many times, right?
I could give
So
you a direct example of that.
listen, you know I'm coming for it because at the end of the day, it's easy to give them the systemic play, right? But when you like Shaq at the free throw line in the first 2 years of his career, you ain't hitting nothing. I'm sorry, Shaq. Yes, I said it. Like I'm just saying, you not hitting nothing. You out here looking like you might need to borrow my glasses. I'm just saying. what what tools, what advice, what direction can you give to the people who struggle with um, the emotional intelligence to manage themselves out of the way, right? Because it's this internal talk that sometimes self-sabotages not just yourself, but your business, your ideas, your growth, all of it. Talk to me about that.
Well, yeah, man. So, I mean, it's such a loaded question. I mean, I also believe that it requires a unique individual to lead an effort to serve communities who have been affected by trauma and violence.
Right,
Period.
right,
We have to peel the layers back and say, who are the entrepreneurs that we're serving and what has been their historical context that affects the way they're showing up today, right?
right,
And to the point where you're like, hey, I'm trying to help you, and
right,
you're getting resistance, right?
right,
Right? That's
right.
literally what we're talking about,
Yeah,
right? hey, listen, the lack of trust is really rooted in a trauma response. There's
Right,
nothing that they've seen
right,
or experienced to let them know that you actually care,
right,
right? So it's
right,
kind of like a doctor or a healthcare professional that's trying to treat somebody on the scene that just got is a victim of a gunshot wound,
right,
right? And the doctor just comes over to him and say, I need you to take your clothes off, do this so I can put this needle in you. And the guy's like, person's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I need to know that you care before
right,
I know what you can do for me. Don't just
right.
come on out here touching me,
This
right?
is intimate. Don't be you telling me to take my clothes off and you don't know
Yeah.
my name yet.
You
Like,
don't know, I don't know you, you don't know
right,
me, but I'm supposed to
right,
just, and so it takes a person who understands that intimate, like you said, understanding of the vulnerability that they're facing. And so why I say
right,
that is because you have to know that you're dealing with the historical trauma that leads to mistrust. And so when you understand that, you got to have conversations that first say, listen, I'm here for you. We raised $9.2 million to give out grant capital
wow,
to our businesses across the state, right? And we led this program. And so we found out we were we were on a campaign trying to give them, hey, here's that money. When you said you don't have friends and family like everybody else
right,
do, you
right,
can have 5,000, 10,000, 4,000 to help get those pieces together.
right,
You just have to apply. And
right,
people were like, hey, man, I don't know. Y'all gonna take my idea. I'm not doing
right,
it.
right,
And the proverbial question is just like when you come to Newark, this is a proverbial question. You coming into my neighborhood telling me you got something for me. Who you?
right,
Who are you?
right,
How can I trust you? Right. And
right,
so it took time to sit down and say, hold on. Let's have a convening so we can just
right,
relate to each other. And now
right.
you can sense who I am before
Because
I
if
start.
not, those tires you rode in on, you might not be riding
You
out
might
one.
not. Right, exactly.
Right,
And
right,
so part of providing resources is first providing care. And that's the Jesus example,
right,
right?
right,
Before you could tell somebody what you got for them, I got all this for you. Well, I don't
right,
know you. And why should I trust you? Because people have stolen from me before that looked like that,
right,
And so we created that system. And so my my perspective is underneath all of this trust has been a fracture in our relationships. If you don't focus on rebuilding relationships first, you cannot mediate resources in to the people who are suffering because they won't even want to receive it. And you're wondering
right,
why,
right,
right? And
right,
that you can't rebuild trust without that relational. And I always say trust is a relational instrument in a financial vehicle.
right,
So the relational piece is the care. That's the relational instrument. The financial vehicle is the capital that can follow the care. And
right,
trust is care and capital. But
right.
if you skip the care, it's going to be hard to access the capital.
Exactly.
And the capital is only supposed to reinforce the message of care that you gave them up front, right?
Exactly.
So that's why, it can be really difficult, but it could also be a blessing when the source of funds cares enough to say, let's take the extra step to make sure that the people not only know that this capital is for you, but
Right,
that we care enough to be patient with your trauma response,
right.
which is justified.
Given everything we have, and this is my last question for you, I promise, unless it spins into something else. Given the state of our economy and everything that's going on in our country today, how do we create a safe space for our founders to really trust and believe that we have an ecosystem or that we could develop one to help them scale and grow when everything that they see around them is telling them that they don't have access to the same capital. They don't have access to the same resources. They don't have access to the same people, the people they thought they could, depend upon. They can't because they're under attack. Communities are under attack. Systems are under attack. Systems are being weaponized to attack the people we're trying to help. Like what advice would you give these individuals to say, hold on and don't give up? And there are things out there you can do to help you sustain as a founder and as a solid, faith driven, resilient entrepreneur. to help kind of push this ecosystem forward?
Wow, that's a good question.
Is a loaded question. It was a
Yes,
lot.
it
It was
is.
a lot. I started out with this country. I didn't say the administration. I said
Yeah.
country.
I guess so. The first thing, honestly, spiritually, that comes to me um, is when sort of this administration started doing all these things and showing its color and how Black people were sitting back sipping tea. And I say
We
that
minding
because
our business. Minding our business. We
because the
was minding
reality
our
is,
business.
we've been here before, right? So,
For 425 years. It keep creeping
this
up
to
behind us.
to be honest, like, and I'm not being reductive, but this situation ain't nothing new.
Right. Not
We've
for
been
us.
right for
Not for us.
exactly for us is we it's been it's not anything new.
Right.
And so and usually our struggle and the solutions that come with our struggle are beneficial to everybody else,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so I'm saying is that one, if we've been here before, we have to call on the same resources that got us through before, each other in our spirit and our faith, right?
Right. Right.
Calling on God, calling each other, mobilizing, organizing, making sure we take care of each other, that
Right.
we invest in each other, and we use what's in our hand in the moment and trust God and each other to fill in the gaps. You don't have control. And
Right.
that's the reminder in these situations. You don't have control.
Throw your
But what
hands
you
up.
is a responsibility to be, to build, and to contribute something that could benefit those coming after you. And I think if you stay true to, and that means you have a firm grasp of your why. Again, it goes
Right.
back to your why. Why
Right.
are you really building this thing, right? Why are you doing this venture? Is it just to make money, or is it to also make change? Do you
Right.
feel like you've been given this thing, or you feel like this was just something that you wanted to do to disrupt or intervene and whatever? It goes. It's hard to have the stick-to-itiveness and resilience if the reason is shallow. And
Right.
so I just believe that we have to continue to do what we've always done, ground ourselves in faith, ground ourselves with each other, remember our why, and build regardless. Because if you trust in who you are and what you're meant to do, you'll notice like these small wins and resources start to show up in places you never thought. Philanthropy often comes into filling gaps, right? And
Right.
so there are people and individuals, and that's where the research might come in too. You might have to go the extra mile to find out where are the sources of funds that are in line with who I am and what I do? Or do I just give up because I don't see them in my current surroundings?
Right.
Well, if your capital provider is in Washington, then I think it makes sense for you to go try to find that person, right? So it just takes a little bit more than meets the eye typically
Yeah. Yeah.
um, to maintain the course.
Yeah. Yeah. I I often tell people it's one day at a time. It's one day at a time. You can't reach back and change anything that's gone, and you have no control over what hasn't come yet. The only thing you can manage is the here, the right now, and today.
That's it.
One day at a time. How
That's
can people find you if they need your services and support?
my website is integritysgp.com. Maybe you can share that for coaching, consulting, for speaking engagements. Um, yeah, people can log on to my website. They can reach out via email, arthur@integritysgp.com. You can share that as well. And when I'm having different speaking engagements, if people want to come, if they're open, they're welcome to do that, or they can reach out through you. But I'm around. I'm out here building communities and
Yep.
and
Yep.
and healing.
And put the plug in. How can they find you if they want to listen to the what? If they want a little extra church service on
Yeah.
Sunday. If they want a little extra gravy with their mashed potatoes. How can they find you and get some of that word, get some meat to go with that gravy and mashed potatoes?
Right. Yeah, I'm an associate minister at Christian Tabernacle Baptist Church in Hamden, Connecticut. And so throughout the year, there are times where I preach, and a lot of those sermons are on our YouTube channel, Christian Tabernacle Baptist Church, Minister Arthur Thomas. So, you can definitely get a word through those channels as well,
Yeah, yeah. There's been many times where I'm like, can you text it to me? Can you send me a word? And normally those words, though that ministry, those messages are right
Hmm,
on target. So
hmm,
thank you so much for your investment in not
hmm,
just this podcast, not just our communities, but in me as a
hmm,
founder, in me as a friend, a partner in this game. Thank you so much for all that you do, because oftentimes people don't get their recognition and they don't see what others do behind the scenes in the background to help lift someone's spirit and to help keep pushing them
hmm.
forward. So I just want anybody and everybody that's going to be watching this podcast to understand that you are not just a pretty face, that you truly care about the people that you insulate yourself with, that you circle and surround yourself with, that you invest in. And I really appreciate your time here today with us. Thank you so much for being here on Axe to Cat on this episode where we talk about conscious conversations, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and how we can help founders and small businesses scale, grow, and access the capital. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Sansari, and for being the light that you are to your founders and who you are, period. It's a pleasure working with you, collaborating and talking to like-minded, like-spirited leader too, because you are a leader.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. All right, my dear.
All right.
Until we meet next time
All
on the
right.
next podcast. Lord knows what that next conversation gonna be, but I'm sure it's gonna
I'm
be
ready for
good.
it. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay,
We
bye-bye.
will chat next time.
Yep.
Axe the cap, let me put you on game. Axe the cap, look at all that you could gain. Business moves, loans, and grants, it's all a part of the game. You could learn all of this, let the Queen Sheba explain.